y'all, this is Cassie, and I'm a North Central Florida gardener. Think as far north as you can go, center of the Panhandle, kind of center of the Big Bend as well. And we just went through Hurricane Helene. We are about 50 miles inland, so we had about 120-mile-per-hour winds. Hurricane Helene tore the roof off of our barn, and when it tore the roof off our barn, it sent it tumbling across our yard, and it wiped out my raised garden beds. You'll see that it knocked part of them off. It bent some of the metal ones and knocked down all of my trellises. So we're improvising because instead of spending time rebuilding my raised beds, my husband will be spending time putting the roof back on our barn, cleaning up tree debris, mending fences. We have to do some home repairs as well. So I decided that instead of letting my in-ground garden rest for the fall, which was my original plan, I am going to plant everything in my in-ground garden and hopefully redo all of my raised beds before the summer. I actually want to move my raised beds. I want to move them now to this spot where my in-ground garden is, up under all these trees, because I think in Florida we can use the shade to our benefit. And now the shade in this area, thanks to the 3 hurricanes we have had this year, is pretty spotty in the afternoon. So I think it will be the perfect cover to keep my crops from getting too much sun and drying out so fast in the summer. Last season, I did the raised bed garden rows, I guess you'd say horizontally, in this spot. And I realized that when the water washed across, it was creating kind of like a terrace effect across the raised rows. And so I wanted to do the rows vertically this time. I've been kind of researching how to do an in-ground garden with the raised rows, the market garden type of theory. And I decided that I was going to work with the water. Um, when the water comes rushing across this, instead of going across the rows, hopefully it will go through the rows and straight out to the pasture. That's my plan anyway. I'm still learning how to do this in-ground thing, so hopefully it's not a total flop. Um, Gardening is just always experimental anyway. I used a tiller to till up each row, and then I tilled up beside it. I was going to just dig beside each one to kind of mound them up, but I decided at the end that it was easier to till it up, to toss it onto the top to make kind of the raised mound. I definitely didn't have to make raised mounds. I'm just kind of trying to work with the water, like I said, and slow it down a little bit, and maybe it won't wash all of my plants away. Um, as you all know, I have a crazy ADHD brain that works really crazy. So the orange poles that you see are actually just my garden stakes that I used to stake my tomatoes, and they made really good tools for laying out my rows so that I could see where each row was going to be and where I needed to till and where I didn't need to till. I also used a crazy tarp that we have. It's probably like 2.5, 3 feet wide, and it's actually used to keep the wind off of our horse stalls. But it was like the perfect width when I walked down it to make the spacing for the rows. So just how I decided to use some tools to my advantage that aren't probably really tools, but they helped me map out this garden. I did this kind of on a whim. I was tired of picking up tree limbs for the day, and I told my little boy, let's go out to the garden and get our fall garden planted, because Hurricane Helene had perfect timing. We were supposed to be planting the fall garden this week. All of my starts were ready. They were starting to look droopy and wilty on the back porch, and I said, you know what? There is another hurricane possibly forming. I think the chances are super low at this point. Um, it might not be the perfect time to get these plants in the ground, but they're going to die on the back porch if we don't get them in the ground. So let's just take them outside, and this will be kind of some therapy for us to get away from cleaning up all the hurricane mess. It wasn't too pleasant in our house anyway because we did not have the AC. We do have a generator that runs, but it only runs the AC or the hot water heater or the well. So we kind of flip flop it between all of them. So this was just a nice little break for me and my son from the typical hurricane cleanup. We planted all of our broccoli and cabbage starts, and then today we will be going back and planting all of our cauliflower starts and our collard starts as well. And I still have the peas and the carrots growing in the raised bed garden, so hopefully they'll just continue, even though the ends are knocked off. We're just going to let those kind of stay out there, and Hopefully this all works out. Thanks for tuning in. And I know this video is a little bit different because it is a voiceover, but I just have not been in the mood for recording or posting videos. I'm not really sure what to post, and our prayers are absolutely with those who are north of us, who are going through so much more than we are here. And just know that y'all are all in our prayers.